I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining me today. Sorry, I've got two kind of screens going on, so I'm in two different spots. Um, I did want to just go over a few of the logistics if you are new to our Little Talks here. Our Little Talks are sponsored by Kaiser Permanente, and we're very grateful for that. If you are new, this is a webinar, which means that your camera and your voice is not on. If you would like to ask questions of any of our panelists, we're certainly going to have time at the end that we will allow that. But if it's something that you would like to try to have answered right while they're speaking, I will keep an eye on the chat and do the best I can to politely interrupt them to ask the question that that you're asking. The two different ways that you can do that. Again, if you are new to the Zoom, mine is at the bottom, but if you, oops, sorry about that. Plan different. Our members and providers sorry. Best. I have my presentation still going. If you take your mouse and kind of go at the bottom, mine's at the bottom, yours might be at the top, you'll see that there is a function that says raise your hand. If you click on that, I will see that you would like to ask a question, and then I can ask if you would like to be unmuted, and you can ask that question. Another way, if you'd prefer not to really speak, there is the chat function that is also there. And if you click on that, again, I will be keeping an eye on that. And that's where you can put any of your questions or comments in there. And I will, again, kind of find a good time or a way to either interject those while our speakers are giving their presentation, or I will try to just wait to the end and make sure we ask those questions at the end. And again, because your camera and recording is not off, we do this at lunch. So if you have and you're having your lunch, feel free to eat away. No one is watching you. So just enjoy our presentation today. So I will kind of dive right in. We have three folks with us. I'm very excited to have them with us to discuss our decluttering of the mind and space and get us really started for the new year that we have ahead of us. Our first speaker will be Dr. Tracy Lepard, and she will get us kicked off. Then we're going to go to Dr. Kathleen Kopel, and she will be second. And then Dr. Christina Wynn will end it with our decluttering of the space. Dr. Lepard, if you'd like to get us going, that would be great.
Sure. Thanks so much, Tanya. And I'm Tracy Lepard. I'm an internal medicine and geriatric medicine physician. So I really specialize in caring for people as they get older. And happy January to all of you. I'm really happy to be with you all today. I don't know about you, but I always feel like the fresh start of a new year really kind of motivates me to simplify things and to declutter. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to try to share my slides. And hopefully you are seeing these now. Whoops.
Not yet.
Okay, hang on. You're not seeing these?
No.
Oh, let me try.
Yep, I can always, since I do have yours too, if we can't get it, I can always try to pull them up.
Makes a Kaiser.
Zoom. Try this one more time.
Okay. There we go. I think we're getting it.
Are you seeing that now?
Yep, we are.
Okay, great. And I'll try to do this from the beginning here. Oh. Okay.
There we go. I think we're good.
All right. So are you seeing two rooms, one of them messy and one of them not messy?
Yes, we are.
Excellent. Thank you. So if the physical space around us feels scattered, it's really likely that our mental space will feel the same. And I don't know about you, but I can tell you which room I would sleep better in. And there really are a lot of health benefits to decluttering. So when you have a tidy space, it really allows you to have better focus because clutter can be really distracting, and getting rid of clutter helps you just better focus on any task at hand. Several studies have shown that there's a correlation between clutter and depression, anxiety, and stress. And a messy environment can really cause people to feel kind of frustrated and helpless and certainly overwhelmed. Having a tidy space, on the other hand, can really create a higher self-esteem and confidence. When you organize your living space, you really can develop those feelings of competency and pride and a sense of accomplishment. It can also help create better relationships. I think of the odd couple, one person's tidy and one person's messy. And while I think we really need to grant every type of person grace, there's really some benefit to having a little bit of a tidier space. And it also can help promote social connectedness. You're much more likely to feel comfortable inviting friends over if you've got a space that's and as we saw from the previous slide, certainly having a neat bedroom with clothes not strewn all over the bed can help improve sleep. And studies have shown that people do sleep better in a tidy room. It can also really help to create healthy habits. It's much easier to prepare healthy foods in an organized kitchen than it is in a kitchen that's kind of a mess. There's actually even a lower risk of asthma and allergies. Sometimes clutter, it just looks like it's a mess, but it actually means that it's harder to clean. And so dust and mildew and mold can all develop in those spaces you can't quite get to because of all the stuff. I'm pretty sure Christina is going to be addressing this, but certainly clutter, it creates all sorts of tripping hazards. And so having a place that you can move around safely in prevents your risk. And all of this really creates just a sense of improved well-being, which I think is what we're all after these days. Some other benefits. So when you declutter, you actually can help others because there's always the possibility of donating things. Something that you may not be getting any use out of, may not enjoy, and it's just kind of creating clutter for you, could be something that another person could really use, could really enjoy. And so being able to donate just feels good. The other thing is sometimes you'll find lost treasures or things that you need and you don't have to buy. I was recently, I chose a drawer in my bathroom that was kind of a mess. And I found dental floss that had on my list of things I needed to pick up at the store. And I was like, oh, I have these 2 dental floss packets. I don't have to buy any right now. And so sometimes you just find the things that you need. And sometimes you really do find some hidden treasures that you've forgotten all about. And you can put them in a place where you can really enjoy them and remember them. So I have a few simple ideas to get started. There's lots of decluttering advice out there. So you don't have to look far online to find all sorts of options. But these are just, I think, really general ideas. The first thing is to start small. So you don't have to decide you're going to organize your entire house. That could be feeling pretty overwhelming. But if you just pick one drawer to organize, one cabinet to organize. Maybe you've been needing to go through your closet and donate some clothes. One thing really makes you feel so much better, and then you can stop. And eventually, when the spirit moves you, you can choose another project that's, a reasonable, realistic project that you can tackle. Sometimes it also helps to build in some structure. So if you're thinking that you want to clean up the kitchen and get messes off the dining room table, invite some people over. Then you have a deadline. Like you want to get this done before your friends come over. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. I think that slows down so many of us who tend to be kind of perfectionists. Just do something and it's going to look better and make you feel better. I also found this rule that I thought was pretty handy. And obviously, you could use any number you want, but go through a room and find 12 items to donate, 12 items to throw away, and 12 items that you just need to put in their proper place. And you can do that room by room, once a week, once a month. Something like that could really just help to get you started, get you motivated. Another idea that I have that my family and I just started doing this past year is, it's easy to accumulate more clutter as time goes on. And the older we get, the more stuff we all have. And so you can really save money and build happy memories by sharing fun experiences together rather than, buying gifts for birthdays and holidays. So some ideas are, making a favorite family recipe together and then sharing that, bundling up and going on a walk to see holiday lights, visiting a museum together, or just completing a jigsaw puzzle, playing some board games. It doesn't have to cost anything. It's the sort of thing that you're just building those happy memories and experiences that you'll remember and never have to clean or put away or donate. So, a couple more thoughts before I pass things along. Decluttering the mind, I think, is really important as well. And having a clean space really will help to declutter your mind. But a few other things to just note. Multitasking is absolutely a myth. Nobody can multitask. What we really do is shift focus from one thing to another thing. And that transition time when we're kind of going back and forth from thing to thing, it takes time, it takes mental energy and effort. And we don't do either thing very well when we're doing that shifting focus. The example I'll give that I think everybody can understand is texting and driving. Not a good idea for obvious reasons. We don't do either one very well. Um, and so we need to really find ways to move from having a mind full of things and too many things to being mindful. And the good news is you can really cultivate that. You really can practice it and get better at it, but it does take practice. So some of the things you can do is being in nature. I gave a talk to this group back in the summer on forest bathing and just being out in nature and enjoying trees and flowers and things like that. It just puts you in the present moment in a way that a few other things really do. You can be mindful and have a mindful practice when you're eating. Really eating slowly and savoring each bite, noticing the colors and the smells and the textures and the taste. Being fully present when interacting with others. When you're having a conversation with somebody, really listening to them and not just having your mind wander to other things and not paying attention to that conversation. And then I think for me, one of the things that has helped my focus the most is a practice of meditation. And I think some people can feel like meditation can be a little almost intimidating, but it really doesn't have to be. It's a tool that you can really use, I think, any time of the day for any amount of time. And so with that, what I'd like to do is a very short meditation, just a minute or two with all of you. So um, take a moment to just kind of get comfortable and start with your eyes open with a nice deep breath, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. And as you breathe out through the mouth, if you're comfortable, gently closing your eyes or softening your focus and just enjoying that feeling of having nothing to do for the next minute. Don't worry if your mind is thinking, just let the mind think. Just taking a moment to enjoy that feeling of having nothing to do. And as you turn your attention to your body, just taking a moment to notice that feeling of your body touching the chair, perhaps the feeling of your feet on the floor, the weight of your hands on your legs. Noticing how the body feels, whether there's a sense of stillness or movement in the body right now. And just noticing how the breath feels in the body. You can gently place your hand on your stomach, just checking in with that rising and falling sensation. Noticing if the breaths are long or short, fast or slow. Just staying with that movement. Just for a couple more breaths. Just feeling that rising and falling sensation. And then, just for a moment, let go of any focus on the breath or on the body. Let the mind do whatever it wants to do. If it wants to think, let it think. And having given the mind a break, just bringing the attention back to the body now, back to that feeling of the feet on the floor, the hands on the legs. And when you're ready, just gently opening the eyes again. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Dr. Kopel. Thank you all.
Thank you, Tracy. That was so lovely. So yeah, my name is Katie Kopel, and I'm an internist based out of the East Clinic. So I work a lot with our geriatric population, but that's happened a lot more so this year under some mentorship from Dr. Lepard as I've entered my new role as our co-director of geriatric medical education, working with the residents. So I'm very happy to be a part of this today, and I'm going to talk a little bit more specifically about meditation. Tanya, if you could pull that up. Great. And I am ready for the next slide. So I have this picture here because, I think there's a reason for the stereotype of the meditator as this very, peaceful, grounded person. And there's also a reason that meditation has been around for thousands of years. So this is pretty obvious to most of us. We know meditation helps us feel calmer and more peaceful. But other benefits have been shown in chronic pain management, as well as difficult or turbulent emotional times, maybe like after a loss or when we're grieving someone. And it's also a great way to practice kindness to ourselves and to other people. It also helps us encounter conflict and the unexpected moments of day-to-day life. And finally, at least for me personally, given how fast-paced modern day life can be, it can also really help us find a moment to just pause. And this can help reduce the feeling of days sort of blurring together or, just being on a fast-paced train. That being said, most of us know that meditation and mindfulness are beneficial practices. And I think that was really wise, Dr. Lepard, when you pointed out. It can just feel kind of intimidating. So let's talk a little bit more now about how we would actually do a meditation practice. And I'm ready for the next slide. Great. So the most important thing when starting a meditation practice is the mindset with which you go into it. Any meditation is a good meditation. Anytime you make time to pause your day or spend some time in meditation, you will benefit. It does not have to look like a clear mind or a Zen mind for it to count or for it to be helpful to you. Exactly like Dr. Lepard pointed out in that meditation we all did together. And in fact, it's very normal, I would say even expected when we start meditation, that we might feel our mind is really busy and really distracted. We might run through our grocery list or replay conversations in our heads, and that's all still part of meditation. Sometimes it's not about stopping your thoughts, and instead, it's just about noticing them. In fact, if we want to do a meditation practice, we should expect that that's going to happen from time to time. It's not going to look the way that we want it to look some of the time or a lot of the time. And so that attitude is actually part of being really realistic about our practice. Even if we have what feels like an overall uncomfortable and distracted experience, I really don't know anyone who ever regrets having taken the time to do a meditation. And even if the meditation itself is kind of uncomfortable, almost always the rest of the day will have even just a little bit of a lighter tone and a more relaxed energy. So being nice to yourself about your meditation practice is a really good way to practice being nice to yourself in general. There's not a lot to be gained from beating yourself up for not naturally having a clear mind. And there is a lot to be gained by practicing patting yourself on the back for just taking the time to do it at all. There's a term in Buddhism for this, which is called Maitri, and it means kindness to yourself. But especially if part of your motivation and inspiration for a meditation practice is to be kinder to others, it's going to be hard to do this if you're not working on a sort of foundational kindness to yourself. I am ready for the next slide. Okay, so mechanics for starting a meditation practice. There's lots of different ways to do meditation today. And a meditation practice is going to look really different for every single person as we choose the style and the length that are most appropriate to us. And both of those things, the style and the length, are going to just change according to different seasons in our life. Each day is also going to have its own demands and availability that will affect our inspiration or just our ability to practice. So just know that it's normal for it to be sort of a moving target. For a traditional seated meditation, this can be very challenging and invite the most frustration from a busy mind. But it's also one of the most beneficial practices, and it's known to be really, really helpful for cultivating calmness. So if we're motivated to do this particular style of practice as our main practice, or maybe one of our practices, it really is okay just to start with 1 minute, just like we did, and work our way up from there. And I was at a meditation retreat myself a couple years ago where we were doing multiple hours of meditation. And one of the women there shared with me that, yeah, 1 minute a day was how she got started. Sometimes that's just where we need to begin. These days, most of us will incorporate some element of a guided practice. And there is a huge spectrum of options for this in the Denver and the Colorado area. Plenty of meditation centers that we can go to. The Shambhala Center is one. It's been around for a long time, and it has some really good beginner meditation courses or first-time meditator courses that are free and open to the public. And then there's quite a large variety of apps these days. I personally like the Peloton app because it has some morning meditations and walking meditations. Insight Timer has a seemingly infinite variety of meditations. And then the Calm app, which I think I misspelled on this slide, is available to you via your kp.org account. So that's kind of low-hanging fruit to check out. If you do a seated and solo meditation, just like Dr. Lepard was saying, it is recommended to make a nice space for yourself that you enjoy being in. So something decluttered, something with some soft and natural light, maybe a candle, maybe some flowers, maybe some incense. If there's a person that you're doing this for as part of your inspiration, maybe someone you're mourning or someone you love, it could be nice to have a picture of them too. And importantly, this does not have to be on a meditation cushion, just a way that you can sit comfortable. So sometimes sitting on the ground is really just not realistic for us, and a chair is absolutely fine. And then sometimes a seated practice period is just not doable because of our minds that day, or our bodies that day, or our time limitations that day. And so this can be a great time to practice a walking meditation. And that could look like some designated time where you try to just be present and mindful of your surroundings, or you could listen to a guided meditation as well. But the big point is just to find what's right for you, and that's going to be different than what's right for anybody else. And ready for the next one, Tanya. Okay. So a couple other practices that can enrich our meditation practice and help us feel more motivated to practice are journaling. And so we can journal about our meditation practice as a way for us to reflect on challenges or things we liked, or write down questions that we have. Sometimes meditation can inspire art, like poetry. And a great example of this is the poet Thich Nhat Hanh. So sometimes reading or writing poetry can be a nice complement to meditation. And there are lots of audiobooks and podcasts about meditation. I think a pretty popular one these days is called 10% Happier. For those of us who are really motivated and want to have a meditation group, or a meditation instructor, that can be a really good way to make your practice more sustainable over the long term. And it only takes a quick Google search to find a large variety of these in the area. Colorado in particular is a real national center for meditation. Okay, ready for the next one? So take home points are any meditation is a good meditation. All meditations are good. Be nice to yourself as you go through this process. My personal meditation instructor told me that, compared to when she started meditation, she was no more accomplished professionally or personally, but that she was a lot nicer to herself and a lot nicer to other people. Like Dr. Lepard said, don't let the best be the enemy of the good. Even just 1 minute a day is a great place to start. And also keep in mind that just be honest and authentic with yourself for what feels right for you, because that's not going to be what's right for anyone else. And I think that's it. I think my last slide here is just a question slide, but I believe we're doing questions at the end, Tanya, right?
All right, let me do my audio. I do have some questions in here. Um, well, oh, you know what? Those are just ones about kind of some logistics. So yes, let's move on and we'll just make sure that people can raise hands and ask questions at the end.
Great. Oh, and I'm sorry my video is a little blurry. I just couldn't fix that. Thanks for your patience.
We know it's not our eyes, so that's a plus. Christina, do you want to get us?
Yes. So, hi, I'm Christina Wynn. I'm a physical therapist working with Kaiser. Right now, I am doing their Better Balance classes, which a lot of one of the conversations we do talk about is how to improve our space as well as our home life situation. Let me try and get my PowerPoint up. Okay, I believe you guys can see that. So, some tips for decluttering, because a lot of times it can be overwhelming. I know I have tried with decluttering multiple times, and I think what really does help, which I've gotten suggestions from patients, but also friends and family, as well as definitely like what Dr. Lepard said, is work on one room at a time, or even just one area of the room at a time. Try not to overwhelm yourself by making a huge list of every single thing you have to declutter in that room, because sometimes that can get overwhelming, where sometimes we will kind of give up in that situation. So one thing I did was I actually took a before and after picture of that physical space. And so that will show me physical changes, so that if maybe I didn't quite notice it firsthand, I can see it secondhand, being like, I did do a really good job with clearing this space. So this countertop is a lot clearer. I have more organization in my drawers, so I can find things easier, things like that. A lot of times, I think, is just focusing on giving each object a home. This will make it so that you can find that object later on, so you won't have 10 million pens in every single room, or maybe like 3 toothbrushes or 30 of them from every dentist appointment that you've ever had in every single drawer. Then you can kind of combine them all, so you know the inventory that you have. So that will also improve your spending with those hygiene components as well. But of course, for each object, I like to ask the question, have I actually used this object? It could be a piece of clothing that has been in the back of my closet forever. Have I used this clothing in the last 6 months or in the last year? Or maybe the shirt still has a tag on it. Maybe I don't know if I am going to be using that anytime soon, which is sad. But in those situations, it's just trying to kind of see, is that realistic that you will be starting to use that object? As well as maybe it's a keepsake. It could be something in that you earned when you're in either with your work, or it could be growing up that you made this certain object. Does this object give me joy? Does it make me happy? Do I remember some memories behind that object? If it's not giving you joy, if it's something that is not having that response to you, maybe it might be time to think of another home for it, or maybe there's a relative that might like that item instead. Also, of course, with documents, you want to make sure, of course, we want to keep things, especially in regards to taxes or other federal documents. But for all other things, is it, do I need this document in the next 5+ years? Or could I actually have someone make it into a digital form so that it's in a computer or a drive so I know where it's at all times instead of having a loose piece of paper? As well, to help with definitely to the stress behind sometimes when we do find objects or cleaning. Definitely performing deep breathing exercises during it. So I really love when they were talking about meditation. That is a perfect time to kind of incorporating those breathing techniques, as well as listening to calm music. Some people are driven by music and some people are not, but finding that technique that works best for you, that you feel relaxed. As well, with everything, after we kind of focus on each and every room, it is going to improve our way to maneuver throughout our home, as well as it will decrease risk of injury for tripping. So making sure that as we navigate from room to room, we do have clear spaces so that we're not having to move around objects or having to step over things as a process, so that we don't have that risk of tripping or injury. So technically, we want to try and limit anything off the floor so that it doesn't become more of a hazard than just an item that we love to share. Um, I always get the question on where could I donate items or who could cherish my item the best. And here is a list of things around Denver, but also in the Colorado area. So clothing and small household goods. There's a list here of that these people do take your items and do send it to the unfortunate who need those particular items, as well as if you do have a lot of assistive devices, two local organizations. One is called Denver Assistance League, as well as Dave's Locker, which is in Arvada. They do accept donations, as well as they do lend out assistive devices as well, free for the community. So if you do have a bunch of, let's say, canes or walkers or crutches or anything that you might have used once or twice, these organizations do take those and they do give it out to the community free, as more like a library loan system. Okay, perfect. And I believe that was it. Excellent.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much to these three wonderful doctors from Kaiser Permanente. Do any of you, this is your time for all of you to either use that little icon down there for raise your hand, put a quick question in the chat or the Q&A for any of our speakers. I'll just kind of keep an eye on it for a moment. Let's see if anything's kind of popping up. Oh, I do have a couple. Hold on. All right. Sally, I see that you raised your hand, so I'm just going to click the little button and it allows you to talk. And so then you'll just have to click and then go ahead and ask your question.
Can you hear me?
We can. Thank you, Sally.
I just the whole time we've been on this chat, I've seen recording up in the top right-hand corner. Is there a way we can review this later?
Yes,
Has
yes.
this been
So
recorded?
thank you. And I apologize. That's normally part of my spiel in the beginning, is to let everyone know that I do record this and I send it out after I get rid of the beginning and the end. That maybe isn't all that exciting. But I do send that out to everyone. So yes, you will get a recording of this, and then that way you'll have all of our slides from all of our presenters to keep those tips and tricks in front of you. Thank you for asking that, Sally. I did see one other person with their hand, but it looks like they may have lowered it. So maybe it was the same question Sally. Maybe it's the same question Sally had. Oh, wait, no, I do see it. I just see iPhone guests. So I'm just gonna do an allow to talk on this. Sally, again, thank you.
Can you hear me still?
Oh, Sally, I can still hear you. I'm gonna go
Oh,
ahead. Unless you have another question, I can go ahead and
I
mute
don't.
you.
I was going to say you're welcome, but I didn't know if you would hear me anyway.
Okay.
So
The person on the iPhone, I did unmute you. Do you want to ask your question? Can you undo your recording? Let me try again. Can you can you hear us? Are you able to ask your question on the iPhone? It looks like you are unmuted. All right. I think we'll move to, I do have someone else, so we'll move to that next one. Carolyn, I just went ahead. Carolyn, can you hear? Can you ask your question?
Yes,
Perfect.
I would like to know if anybody can recommend a good place to sell vintage glassware.
I am not sure of that. I don't know if actually any of the other participants might know where somebody might sell vintage glassware. I know that, a lot of communities will have an antique store that might purchase things like that, but I'm just not sure off the top of my head.
Me neither. That was going to be my first thing as well, that there's so many on Broadway, so many cool and neat antique stores that do buy things that maybe, Carolyn, they might, I don't know. Christina, do you have any ideas or thoughts on that?
I am not quite sure, but yeah, I would agree. Like there are quite a bit of like antique shops around on different streets, but also if you are on Facebook, some people do post their items on Facebook and then they can market it the price that they're looking for those items. I know a lot of people do that as well. So it's Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah. Carolyn, you could also, if it is something, the Facebook Marketplace or something like that, certainly that would be a good one. You could put that request into a little help and see if any of our volunteers would be kind of willing to help you look into that or possibly put something online for you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Let's see. I see I have another no name. It just says Zoom guest, so I'm gonna allow that one as well. And if you can introduce yourself.
Hi, this is Michelle. So, in answer to the last caller's question,
Hmm,
League Assistants also will sell glassware, vintage or otherwise.
perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And then their mobility shop is right next door.
Sally, I see that you had your hand raised again.
I've been going to a place in Littleton. There's two locations called Turnstyle. Two separate words, Turnstyle. Turnstyle Consignment. And I just take everything there. They even take furniture. If it's big, you need to take a photograph of it and email it to them to see if they have room for it. But they take pretty much clothing, knickknacks, glassware, shoes, and I buy from there too. And it's a consignment store now. They do take 50% of what it sells for. So Turnstyle.
Perfect. Thank you. I love that we have all sorts of people chiming in. Anybody else with questions? I don't see anything in the chat. And I'll keep an eye a little bit longer and see if anyone has a raised hand. Do any of our speakers have any last minute or anything you'd like to share or add as I'm kind of keeping an eye on the chats and raised hands?
No, just thank you for giving us the time and space to have this conversation. And I hope you all have a really happy and healthy 2025.